James at 16 will not be presented this evening, but will return next week at its regular time. Stay tuned now for a special 2-hour What Really Happened to the Class of 65.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. Coming February 21st, it's Faye and the Moon, the latest graphic novel from Franco and the Saturn Sisters. Faye, mourning for her missing mother, sits night after night below the moon that her mother loved dearly. One night she discovers she can pluck the moon out of the star-filled sky. Back safe in her house, she holds it close, feeling comfort at last. Then Faye loses the moon and finds that taking it has awakened ancient monsters, rats, dragons, and more, who hunt for it for themselves. Will Faye be able to reclaim the moon, find her own inner strength, and save the world from eternal darkness? Faye and the Moon comes from the minds of Franco, whose works include Tiny Titans, Superman of Smallville, Archimaniacs, Itty Bitty Hellboy, and The Ghost and the Owl, and art from the Saturn Sisters, whose animated works include Sesame Studios' The New Neighbors, Hulu's The Awesomes by Seth Meyers, and PBS's Mira, Selkie from the Sea. Pre-order Faye and the Moon now. Available in bookstores and comic shops everywhere, February 21st. Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Curt Pires is back. Nice to see you, Curt. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me, John. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy to see you, man. God, we were just exchanging bleak weather stories. It's the gray month of February, but people will find some good escapism in a couple of your brand new books. We've got Indigo Children, and also we'll be talking about It's Only Teenage Wasteland. But you might remember everybody, Curt, from the fantastic series Youth. Am I right, Curt? Wasn't that being developed into a TV property?
Yeah, so Youth we've been working on for a while. We're actually just in the process of we've got a writer's room going for the first season. I'm writing some of the episodes on that, and so we're working away at it. I'm hoping to have some announcements soon for everyone. But yeah, it takes a long time to get these big companies to give you millions and millions of dollars to go and make stuff. Who would have thought it?
Hey, I'm glad you're in the process, and that's fine. I wish you all the luck. I was just talking to Jeff Lemire yesterday about both Sweet Tooth Season 2 that's starting to get underway, and he's working on Essex County. So that's great to hear for you. But, and really these two new books also are teenage stories. And, I should say, and we'll talk about Indigo Children first, there are flashbacks to the kids in their formative years. This is a great sci-fi conspiracy story. There's more going on even in the first two issues that you gave me to read. Is it up and running, or are we still waiting for issue 1?
So issue 1 is out in about a month. It's out March 29th. We're sort of rapidly approaching the final order cutoff and all that fun stuff where we yell at people to pre-order the books
Oh yeah.
because the way comics works is a bit nonsensical. But yeah, we're about a month out. Again, the book, if I have to sort of pitch it, it's like Stranger Things meets It, but a lot cooler than that Hollywood pitch would have you believe. It's basically about these group of kids with gifted and extraordinary abilities who uh, we sort of see a glimpse of them at the very beginning of it, and then the kids all sort of mysteriously disappear, and we follow this journalist who's really our gateway into this world as he tries to track down and figure out what happened to the the Indigo children, who are the namesake of the book. So it's sort of a superhero adjacent story, but I think we're doing it in an interesting and sort of fresh way.
Yeah, it's a plain clothes story, and it has again sci-fi elements to it. These are children that have gifted powers. You'll learn about their backgrounds in the first issue, but as you said, we follow them as adults, and there's also some sort of conspiracy going on. So I agree with you. I like the elevator pitch combination that you mentioned, but I also think, like you said, there is a lot more going on. Um, wow, this is great already out of the box, Dennis Hoffman, and we'll get into Teenage Wasteland. But Dennis says, love Curt's work. Youth has been amazing, but I'm totally blown away by only Teenage Wasteland. Jacoby is an amazing artist. Hope they keep collaborating. Completely agree. Both projects, Curt. You've managed to find great partners for the art chores, and I think both books are distinct and beautiful.
Well, so I'd give the word balloon exclusive or whatever since I'm on here and people are listening. But yeah, Jacoby and I definitely plan to work together more. It's only Teenage Wasteland. We're just mapped out about three more volumes of it. I think, uh, and yeah, that's one too where we have interest in the TV show. I haven't announced that anywhere. I'll be announcing it in a couple weeks, but that's something happening with that one. So we plan to do more Teenage Wasteland. We're also working on another idea. So like, I think you'll be reading a lot more stuff from us in the years to come. I'm trying to lock them down, man. You get these good artists. You gotta like once you get them, you gotta just keep them working on your stuff, or else some other writer's gonna steal them.
That's an old refrain. Absolutely, Curt. I've heard others say the same thing, and you're right. And I'm glad that you've found these great partners and stuff. You've got a great sense of writing kid dialogue and kid stories. Um, Again, Indigo Children gets into a few more adult things as the story progresses. But Teenage Wasteland, how many issues into the story are you there?
So Teenage Wasteland, we're 3 issues into it. The first story arc is 4 issues, and we've timed things out so the fourth issue of Teenage Wasteland is going to be out the same day as Indigo Children, so people can go to the store to pick up that fourth issue of Teenage Wasteland, and hopefully we'll check out Indigo Children as well as sort of like the next big project.
That sounds great. Here, Wesley Jones has two comments for you. He read Youth after the last word balloon. Oh, I'm so glad. As I always like to say in social media, when someone discovers a new creator or book, I always I retweet and say the system works. So that's great. I'm glad to hear that, Wesley. He had no
Yeah,
idea that he needed youth in his life. So that's wonderful.
well, I
You know,
appreciate that, man. It's like, thank you, Wesley. Oh, wow. Great honor. Thanks, Wesley. We
he,
appreciate you, man.
yeah, he
That's
follows up for the audio audience and says, Pierce section is happening in my library. That's awesome, man. No, that's so great to hear. Oh, Pierce, Curt, are you going to do? It's funny. We've got the American Library Association trade show coming in June here in Chicago, and it's been great to see not only DC and Marvel people attending these things, but a lot of Image and Dark Horse and you know alternative comics show up at these things. And I don't know, are you were you planning on doing any sort of shows like the ALA show?
I'm trying to figure it out, to be honest. My schedule's pretty busy for the immediate future, so I don't have really anything lined up. I'm sort of hunkered down working on these books, but I think around the time we have enough stuff coming out that we'll line some stuff up, but I'm just not 100% sure yet.
Sure, I understand. Well, obviously too, yeah, you're busy with the TV show, so I can certainly appreciate that. But I really do think in both cases, yeah, you really do know how to tap in. It's only Teenage Wasteland. Um, it starts off at a party, and it man, I mean, and I'm in my 50s, but I remember teenage parties, and it really evokes that vibe of a typical, like the beginning of Say Anything, the Cusack movie. And it starts off at a last night of high school kind of party and stuff like that. Give us what you want to reveal about It's Only Teenage Wasteland in terms of the general story without spoiling too much.
Yeah, so again, I'll do the elevator pitch thing since
Yeah.
like 90% of my job is just meeting with people and trying to get them interested in this stuff. But we sort of pitched this one as super bad meets lost, right? So it's about these group of kids who are throwing this party, uh, and there's sort of a twist at the end of the first issue, but it goes from being sort of a teen comedy thing to these kids find themselves in like a post-apocalyptic environment, and they seem to be the only ones left. They don't know what happened, so it's like this big mystery, but it's also got comedy elements, right? Because it's these four teenage kids who are left at the end of the world, and they have no idea what to do with themselves, and they're living in a gas station, and so it's like
Ah,
it's post-apocalyptic stuff, but it's also just fun. You know what I mean? Which is
oh
like
yeah.
I think everything is so serious and like life is so rough in so many ways now. I personally just want to like I like things that just are funny, and just sort of lighthearted in a lot of ways. So I think that is what is fun about It's Only Teenage Wasteland to me is it's like this apocalyptic thing, but it's not super serious or gloomy. It's like the kids are still making, dick and fart jokes or whatever. It's just like hanging out with your friends.
Absolutely, man. No, it is. Again, you capture the kind of settings and the interpersonal relationships they all have, and it does. It definitely speaks to a teen audience, and of course, like we said, youth is also a teen book as well. You've really, I think, developed a good voice in that genre. Um,
I don't know
Indigo.
how it happened. I'm not trying to write all these teen books, but I think it just sort of happened, right? It's like
Do you
you're
have
good at something.
do you have I mean, you seem too young to have teenage kids. Do you have a group of kids that I mean, where are you getting your dialogue from beyond your own maybe yearbook memories and stuff?
Just being extremely immature, I guess. No. Uh, no, honestly, the secret is I'm not trying to write them like kids. I'm just trying to write them talking naturalistically the way people talk. And I think honestly, the way I write the characters is my ground is just how I talk when I'm shit talking with my friends, right?
Sure.
So that's why people always say that doesn't really change with age. Like maybe you grow up a bit with your friends, but and the way you treat each other. But for me, my best friends and my brother, the way we talk, we're just it not that much has changed. We're just busting each other's balls. You know what I mean? So I think that's the through line which makes everyone respond to it. Is it's like it's just sort of naturalistic.
You are Kurt, you are so right, and it's funny because I have a great set of. I'm really lucky to have high school friends that have been with me well beyond high school. In fact, our 40th high school reunion is coming up in the fall. And you're right, man. No, I mean we're all responsible adults. They've got some of them have children, but at the end of the day, we are still telling the same dick and fart jokes that we were telling 40 years ago. So I do
Exactly.
understand, and you're right, man. So no, if there's any worries about immaturity and stuff, I think I got a couple decades on you, and I'm sad to say that no, it's pretty much still the same. I got to admit.
Yeah, you never grow out of it, right?
No, and especially with those group of people that you've known forever and stuff. That's really cool. That's great. How did you find your artists for both projects?
So Jacoby, who's the artist on Teenage Wastelands, is really talented artist from Washington State, who I sort of met on Twitter. Actually, he
Oh,
I think he read Youth and he read Olympia, and he was like a fan of the books and sort of reached out to me. And I was looking at his work, and he was like this incredible artist. So I was like, we should do something, or maybe actually I think he reached out first about doing something, but I definitely wanted to work with him from the get go because it's like this guy's so talented. And we actually spent a couple years bouncing back and forth on different ideas. I'm really picky with what I do, right? So if we start something and it doesn't feel like fully cooked, I would be like, look, sorry, man, I don't think this is there yet. Uh, and to his credit, he didn't tell me to fuck off after
Sure.
a couple aborted projects. And so when I had the idea for Teenage Wasteland, I'm like, I have to hit him up right away. Like, this is his. And he was very into it. So that was the one we finally like got out into the world.
Excellent. I want to show some art without spoiling from issue 1 of It's Only Teenage Wasteland Beyond the Cover to give people a bit of a feel of what to expect. Colors are great. I don't know who's coloring the book, but everything about it, and as you'll see in a second, as I bring this stuff up, my laptop's being slow. Pardon me.
Our colorist is a gentleman named Mark Dale from the UK, who's a great colorist who's working on a ton of my books right now. He's just really talented, hardworking guy. So this is Mark.
Great stuff, man. No, it's beautiful and relatable. And again, I love how our main character kind of refers to us as we weren't the cool kids, but we weren't total outcasts either. These are, as he says, we're just sort of that group that slipped through the cracks. I think that's a great definition of our cast of characters that we're dealing with, and It's Only Teenage Wasteland. Were you one of those kids? Were you in this kind of?
Yeah, I think like
but not.
I think me and my friends were very similar to what he's talking about there, where it's like, yeah, we weren't the total off the charts outcast, but also we weren't like the cool kids. We're just sort of in between.
Have you shown It's Only Teenage Wasteland to your core group of buddies and stuff, or your brother, and can they find themselves in the cast?
Yeah, my brother has read it, and I know it's good because he asked me to read more in the first issue, right? And I could tell when he was reading it. He was finding it funny, he was laughing. And then my other friend, who's been my friend since like elementary school, and I call him Gord, who's one of the characters in the books named after him. I haven't given him his copies yet, but I've told him about it. And so that's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's excellent, man. Where did you grow up in Canada, Curt? Where did you grow up?
Yeah, so I grew up in Calgary. We're just sort of for our American listeners, which I assume is like pretty much everyone.
Well, I have a good Canadian audience, but no, that's the dominant country is America, of course. Go on.
People don't know where Calgary is. It's north of Montana, so that'll like everyone will kind of know what it's like then. But yeah, it's snowy, cold. They call it the Texas of Canada. I guess that's
okay.
Maybe that's a compliment or an insult, depending on your opinion of Texas. I don't mind it. It's nice here. But yeah, I grew up here, and it's sort of like my brother's obviously I'm close with, and my one friend. I've been friends with basically since we were very tiny kids, and like we were talking about earlier, I'm friends with people who just treat me the exact same way I was before doing any of this stuff. It's like my friends will just bust my balls all the same. They don't care, what I do or, what, how many TV shows you got or whatever. You're still just a dude, and it's just like they're still just telling the same jokes and stuff, right?
Absolutely, man. That's great. Is Youth, and again, I don't want to get ahead of any announcements that they are going to make or you're going to make about Youth, but is it a Canadian production? Is it an American production? What is going on TV wise with you right now?
Youth is an American production, yeah.
Okay, and we'll learn more. Obviously, you said there's going to be a big announcement in a couple of weeks.
For
months?
youth, I'm not sure when the announcement will be. The Teenage Wasteland one will probably announce soon.
And is that American? Is that American TV as well, or is that Canadian TV? Or
everything's American TV.
good for you, man.
I'm not like Jeff. I don't have that line to CBC. Jeff
Yeah,
Lemire's,
Lemire, yeah.
they love him. He's like Mother Teresa or something here. I don't know why. Gotta get his. I gotta get him to put me in touch with them. I know the East
Do you
Coast
know Jeff?
people don't. No, not that. Not really.
Okay, all right.
We're just two Canadians, but Toronto and Calgary are different worlds.
I do know, and I do appreciate you saying that. And I will admit a lot of fascination with Canadian filmmaking and broadcasting. As I was telling Jeff yesterday, I'm a big Ken Finkelman fan of his comedy, The Newsroom and More Tears and Good Dog and those shows. I think he's a brilliant satirist that has had dips in American television and film. He directed Airplane 2 of all things, and he had a show called Ned and Stacy that was a Thomas Hayden Church, Deborah Messing show that was on Fox for a minute. But Kari Andrews, the great writer and comic book artist, has made a few films with the Canadian Film Board, and it seems like a much more democratic system of people getting their shots at filmmaking versus the cutthroat world of Hollywood.
I mean, I don't really know about that. It's like I'm coming at it from the Canadian. So it's nice in that their government does invest money into like filmmaking, but it's still people who are all connected with the stuff. I mean, like, look, I'll say that I think Sweet Tooth is the only piece of content produced by the CBC in years that I've had any interest in watching. And it's like, I'm glad to see they're finally making stuff that people want to watch, because about 90% of it is like, who is this for?
Interesting.
So to be honest, it's like, I don't know why Canadians are funding David Cronenberg's kids movie. It's like, go find some people who actually need help, some new voices, and tap into it instead of it's just like it's a circle jerk basically. So
I'm hip. No. Yeah, you're right. I guess that's fair. No, I see what you're saying, and that again, it's interesting to get that perspective because we only get what Canadian shows trickle down here. I always love and again, it's not the greatest TV, but being such an uber nerd, I love the fact that Canadian TV leans into science fiction as much as it does, and I mean that's been the case for decades.
There's definitely some cool Canadian TV. Don't get me wrong. I just feel like it's. I don't think it's been like working lately. I don't know. I just feel like when it's arts are publicly funded, they should reflect more than just East Coast and this sort of stuff. You know what I mean? Like I want to make it some neo-Western shows and stuff set in Calgary in this sort of area, right? Because how big Yellowstone is, and I have an easier time talking to people in Hollywood and that sort of stuff than anyone on the Canadian side of things. So, anyways, this is too deep cut Canada for the audience.
No, Curt. First of all, not for me, and respectfully, viewers and listeners, it's kind of what interests me, and I do appreciate the opportunity of talking to people from other countries. Even you like you said, you're right over the Montana border as far as Calgary goes, but in a lot of ways, we're still all a North American culture. But there are these different shades, and I honestly find them fascinating, and I think it's great. And goddamn, even things like Second City, which is a big deal in Toronto and Chicago. There are different flavors of comedy from both stages and the various productions that they have produced for mainstream. For every Dave Thomas, there's a John Belushi. I had the opportunity to talk to Dave last year. He co-wrote a science fiction book with Max Collins, a crime science fiction book. And I mean, again, hey man, I'm a Canada file almost as much as I'm an Anglophile and
You
stuff. So
probably know more than Canada about me. No, but just to like temper my criticisms, I would say I'm like really happy to see Essex County get made, and I think
yeah,
uh, Jeff is just a tremendously talented creator, and I'm happy that CBC is investing in stuff like that and making that, and I hope we can do more of that.
well, and the good news is you're tapping into the Hollywood pipeline, man. You're like a lot of Michael J. Fox and others that came down here and found success, and certainly never have been shy about their roots, and certainly respectful of where they came from. Mike Myers, another great example of that. But no, I think it's terrific that things are happening for you down here, and it really in the case of all three youth, Indigo Children and It's Only Teenage Wasteland, I see real potential for these things. You're a comic in the cases of these projects. They are proper comic books. I don't want anyone to think, if they haven't checked that stuff out, that they don't represent a good comic book product. But also, I definitely see the opportunities of translating these to TV or film.
Yeah, so I think you kind of touched on it a bit there, but I just want to say to people, when I'm making this stuff, first and foremost, I'm thinking of it as comic books. We're not doing this in. I know people can be really critical when they see announcements happening all the time of creators turning their stuff into books, but really, my teams and I craft these to be like the best comics. Like every book I put out, I feel like can go head to head with any book, any Eisner winning book, anything like that. I'll put Indigo Children against whatever it is. I'll put Teenage Wasteland against whatever book they're going to give the Eisner to. We just do the Hollywood stuff because all these companies that do these books are doing the Hollywood stuff and they're fucking the creators over.
Yes, they are.
So why am I gonna let someone make all the money off my stuff when I can just do it myself? And B, it's like I'm not writing Batman, I'm not writing these books. I need that money, right? So the money I get paid working on the Hollywood projects, I put back into the comic books. It's what enables a lot of times to market the books properly and to get more books made and stuff and take chance on the crazy ideas. Is like that comes from that money. So it's not that we're like looking down on comics. If I could just write the comics and never deal with anyone in Hollywood and make like a living I'm happy with, I would do that. But I have to because of the position I'm in, I've got to hustle. So that's what we do.
I think that's great, man. And I think that's very honest and a word to the wise and everything. And based on all that, do you not have any interest in working on properties from Marvel or DC?
I mean, I think the ship has sailed. I feel like I've been doing great work for years. I've been named to like Forbes 30 under 30. I'm one of two comic people who've ever done that, and still the editors at these company and stuff think they're too cool to hit me up or let me do what I want. Or I don't know. I had conversations with some senior people at one of the big two, and they just kind of I thought we're unprofessional and like kind of just shitty. So it's good. We're going to be bigger than Marvel and DC. So
Attaboy.
So yeah, it's like you come beg me for a job in a couple of years.
Honestly, I think you came along at the right time because this isn't a unique story that I've heard from others who broke through with their own original ideas. And in their cases, DC and Marvel have come after them. And really, at the end of the day, they're like, nah, I think I'm going to make my own comics. It sounds like Lemire even is, and I don't mean to keep bringing him up, but I just did talk to him yesterday. And it sounds like he really, thankfully, that his ideas are finding bigger audiences. And also, it's dovetailing back for them to pick up his books after watching Sweet Tooth, for example, that he doesn't need to go back to Marvel or DC with anything new. And he understands those characters, and when he does write them, it's great. But yeah, man, no, take the lion's share of the money if you can.
Yeah, so I
During
just want to say as well, just so like I don't sound like an asshole to listeners, is like I do love DC and Marvel comics. I love superheroes. I'm just
Sure.
specifically speaking out against executives and individuals who make money off creators or don't treat creators right. Otherwise, I'm fine. I love the books like everyone else. It's like that stuff is so much fun, and there's so many great books. I just think for me, this is not my hobby. This is my livelihood. So you got to understand it that way. I have to work in a manner that's going to sustain me and my collaborators and ultimately, you know, bring us the lives we want. It's like that's doing stuff we own and that we can see that our fair share of compensation for.
I totally get that. You describe Indigo Children as having kind of a superhero bent. Having read those first two issues, I see it more as a sci-fi thing. Would you want to create your own costumed superheroes, or do you like the idea of plain clothes people that have extra powers?
So like Indigo Children, I would say is like a post superhero book. It's like it's a sci-fi book, but
Yes.
there's sort of some of the DNA of a superhero book in there, right? Which is
Sure.
something I really like. And then as for the other question, uh, yeah, I might be working on some stuff, like some. We'll see if it happens, but yeah, I've got a pretty ambitious plan for that sort of thing. I've been talking to a friend in publishing about that maybe we'll do. My thing is like basically like I think I could do a better job of modern superhero comics than DC and Marvel are currently doing. So it's like basically, why don't we just do it? Why don't I just bring a bunch of my friends who've worked on those books and like give them a better deal? Let's go off and make something that will get turned into the next MCU or whatever. Uh, but we'll see if it happens.
Good for you, man. No, I think that's terrific. Also, you intrigued me when we were talking earlier, and you mentioned neo westerns. I love the idea of modern westerns. I'm a big I loved shows like Justified, but I'm a really even more so Longmire. Really hit me in the right way as a good modern day western. And of course, we've got Yellowstone currently, and that's all the rage, and the prequels that are doing so well. Are there, and I don't want you to spill what you might have planned for a neo western. Are there other genres that interest you? Would you want to do a straight up crime book? Would you want to do a straight up, I don't know, sci-fi? I mean, again, I think Indigo Children is certainly you doing a straight up sci-fi book. But yeah, are there other genres that you want to
A
play with?
few, yeah, I've like neo westerns. It's like uh, see, like I have a lot of neo western ideas, but I normally don't launch them as comics because I feel like comics is hard enough to get anyone interested in crime comics. You narrow that sliver down to a neo western, you're just kind of you're going to sell two copies. But yeah, I have a bunch of ideas like that. Like I have a movie I wrote that's a neo western that I've been trying to get money to make. And then I have another idea, which is a crime thing set against the background of Canadian sports.
Oh,
Uh,
crazy. Which, or well, again, I don't want you to spoil. So no, don't tell me
I'm
which
not
thing.
going to say because I don't want anyone to like steal the idea,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like that one, so we're gonna shop that one out. I wrote the pilot for that, but yeah, it's like I would love to be able to do some of these ideas as comics. Just like I think like the comic market is so specific, it's really hard to get people to buy the crime books and stuff. I mean, like Ed Brubaker is probably the only one who could sell crime comics, and I feel like Ed would probably sell more if they were crime comics. You know what I mean? Like if Ed does a superhero book at Image, probably going to sell more than a crime book. But
Yeah.
I I love that stuff, so I hope I can find a way to do more of it.
Yeah, Ed kind of slowly, and having talked to him for 15 years, I noticed that he kind of slowly went from superhero books that had a crime element to it to then some of those mid-aught books that he was doing that were super villains but more crime-like, and now totally back into the noir genre.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
even,
and I think he's been doing that for like 20 years, right? So he's really built an
absolutely.
audience, and uh, it probably took time, right? Like, I don't think the first volumes of Criminal they did probably sell anywhere near what they sell now, right? So it's
Yeah.
really a long game, a lot of this stuff, and yeah, I really respect people like Ed, right? It's because it's like those are those are comics lifers, and as well, it's like that's someone who created the Winter Soldier, this huge character in this movie, and they basically, like he was saying, so I'm not talking out of school here. They offer you like a ticket to the premiere and $5,000. It's like, what the fuck?
Lousy.
So I
Lousy.
respect sort of his independence and commitment to, uh, creating his own stories and building his own sort of, Brubaker empire or whatever. So I respect everyone who is out there hustling. I appreciate it. I think it's like great when creators do their own thing.
I completely agree with you, man. And again, it's having the guts to put your money where your mouth is in terms of building that initial readership. And thankfully, I mean, you saw the comments earlier from people like Wesley that discovered your stuff through youth and appreciate your voice, and now look forward to when there's a new Curt Pires book to enjoy. Regarding neo westerns, great story, and I've yet to have him on the show, but a lot of his peers told me about this. Tim Truman, who certainly was Scout and other things that he did in the 80s and 90s, beyond traditional comics as well, a great Western fan and a guy that can really write and draw Westerns. In the late 90s, decided to do a Western. Nobody was biting as far as comic book publishers. He self-published, and then he advertised literally in cowboy magazines and put out ads. And it's like, hey, you like Westerns? And I believe they were both straight up articles about, just the cowboy life, but also where there were fictional stories as well. And it's like, hey, guess what? I've got an illustrated Western you might find enjoyable. And he made good money off of it. And he went outside the traditional comic book, distribution chains to find his audience during COVID. And I know you were busy with TV, and again, Ed is a great example of what he has done, working with guys like Marcos Martin and Panel Syndicate or some of these other distribution chains. Did you explore those beyond what you do with Dark Horse and Image?
Well, like I've had and still have a huge amount of books with Comixology, and I was really one of the first people to go all in on Comixology. We announced a 4-book deal with them. I don't know, probably 6 months to a year before Scott announced all his books and stuff. So this is way back. I think the only book on Comixology before youth that had really sort of blown up in terms of their original content was Zdarsky's book, right? It won the Eisner. But we were very early, and I went in on it because I saw it's like the deal was just great. Like we weren't giving them any of the TV or film stuff, which is what kind of all the other publishers try and take from you.
Yes.
And they just really wanted to empower you to make great books for their platform. So I did a lot of that, and I've done a lot of that. Now, unfortunately, Comixology is kind of, as a lot of people have seen, winding down. But and again, no comment on that other than I don't like seeing people who I work with and who are good people lose their jobs because of some Amazon whatever greasy haired guy up the food chain. But yeah, I mean, I think, Comixology was a really great opportunity for the originals. And I think the Substack stuff, I think, was hit or miss. But I think with Jonathan, the Three Worlds, Three Moons stuff, very cool. Really looking forward to what the books that Matthew Rosenberg is going to start putting on there. Matthew, I've been subscribed for a while now. I'm waiting for that first comic to drop. Come on. but yeah, so it's cool, and I think, look, I think getting money to make comics is kind of like running a bank or robbing a bank. Anytime you can get some big corporation to give you a bunch of money to go make comic books, I think it's great.
I'm glad you mentioned Matthew because I wasn't sure, and also I didn't want to diminish what you're doing with It's Only Teenage Wasteland, but I would tell people that really enjoy What's the Furthest from Here, Matt, one of Matt's latest books, that there is a kinship between Teenage Wasteland and that book from Matthew. So I'm glad to hear that you're not only a fan, but you're even supporting the Substack.
No,
That's
he's my
terrific.
friend. I was
I
friends
didn't know
with
that.
him
That's great, man.
since a long time ago. Our first books when we were just self-publishing stuff. And yeah, I would say like credit where it's due. I don't think uh, our book would be doing as well, or would even necessarily exist, or the other book, Once Upon a Time at the End of the World. These books are both like in conversation with Matt's book, and so it's like credit to Matt. I think him and Teller made a great book, and started that sort of like wave of books or whatever, right?
I'm with you. Absolutely. Are there other peers like Matthew that you're friends with?
Uh, Trying to think. I don't really like. I don't know, man. I'm kind of just on my own doing my thing. Matt was one of my guys when it's coming up. I think Ed Brisson was also very nice
I
to
was
me.
going to ask. I love Ed's another guy that I've appreciated as we've gotten to know each other better. And and again, I don't want to like it's like me being Greek, man. Hey, Ed's Canadian. Do you know Ed Brisson? I mean,
Yeah, all Canadians know each other. And then yeah, Frank Barbera is a good buddy of mine.
love Frank. Frank's a great guy. Absolutely.
Yeah, so those are my guys, and
Cool.
yeah, I came up with a lot of them, and just nothing but love for those guys.
Absolutely, man. All right, all right, if you don't want to get into the current state of comicsology, I totally respect that. But tell me, getting the deal, did you work with Chip Mosier? Is that the guy who found you and said, "Hey, maybe you do stuff at comicsology"?
Yeah, Chip's one of my like best friends, so we became friends through working together. He's a great guy. He's one of the smartest, probably the best executive in comics, in my opinion.
I agree, and honestly, even though comicsology, as far as the originals, is winding down, I'm glad Scott's got his stuff there. I don't know how what
Yeah,
the next.
Scott's stuff is awesome too. By the way, I love that stuff. I think like
Yes.
Canary is such a cool
Oh
book.
God, I saw, and there's a Western, absolutely, man. Him and Panosian.
Yeah, we're Western guys, man.
Good stuff, man.
Yep.
I also love Flyboys, the barnstorming early 20s
I'm
aviation.
behind on that one. So my favorites are Canary, and I loved the one he did with Francesco, is how you say it?
Yeah, Francesco Francavilla. Yeah, yeah.
That one's such a cool concept and
Agreed.
using our yes, Scott. That's what I loved about Comixology. There's just so many good books coming out of there. Scott's book, Sabella did a book.
Yeah. Zdarsky.
Like they're just a cool place. I think. Yeah, it's just like it was great. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a shame. I understand they had the opportunity to make money when Amazon bought Comixology, and it's monolithic, Curt. It's not. It's something that I was discussing with a good friend of mine who is an executive in the podcast world, and a lot of these decisions upstairs are made very monolithically, where literally they're only looking at numbers. They're not
Oh yeah,
thinking about developing product in the way that Comixology did and had that intent and succeeded with really interesting ideas.
Yeah, I mean, this is just high level stuff, right? Just numbers on a spreadsheet. Probably
Literally.
looking at okay, this is how much this thing costs, this is how much we make off it. And I mean, I don't think it should be not surprising to anyone to say that like comics is not the most profitable business Amazon is engaged in. So and again, I'm not speaking out of turn or anything. These are just my personal opinions, and I don't think I have to be a bit careful because I'm still in business with a lot of these people. But all I've said is I'm personally not a fan of all the layoffs, which I think is a pretty pedestrian sentiment to express. So I'm fine with that.
I respect that, man. No, and I appreciate you going into detail. It is one of the subjects that I intend to cover through other observers rather than people that are directly involved. And it's a touchy subject, so I can appreciate that.
Also, like, let me say, the way people talk about this on social media is sometimes a little insensitive and fucked up. Like, people are writing these blog posts and talking about it like these aren't people's jobs and lives that are getting disrupted here. And it's just like, there's a certain amount of glee you see in some people talking about it. I'm like, have some basic decency. This is people who are unemployed now, you know? It's like, I don't know. It's not just your hobby again. I mean, it can stress. These are people's lives we're talking about here.
100%, man. No, and uh, I'm sure the same case is happening in Canada, but coming as a vet of radio for 35 years and in Chicago for 30 years and seeing the downsizing that's happening in broadcasting, it's just like newspapers as well, where a lot of good, talented people that, built their careers in these businesses and stuff are finding themselves downsized and outmoded. And God, now, of course, the encroachment of AI from an art standpoint. I'm still not convinced, and I wonder how you feel about this, Curt. I see the writing examples of AI that are happening, and I do appreciate the general concern, and maybe in the, sitting on the toilet 5 minute article, that maybe that might slightly be in jeopardy. But maybe I'm nuts. Maybe I'm a horse and buggy man, and I'm, laughing at the automobile. I don't know, but I really do think there is a difference. And as even as intuitive as AI gets, both writing and art, you can't replace the real thing.
Yeah, well, I definitely agree with you. I think AI art is largely embarrassing. Just look at it; it's the most like soulless airbrush dog shit. Writing, writing, I think is like pretty. Writing, I think it could be more convincing because you can, if you narrow the parameters enough, it will like nail it. Uh, but again, I think you've seen a lot of stuff where the AIs are less than stellar. I think what's interesting about AI and where it's really beneficial is the sort of machine learning stuff with in terms of like programming the self-driving cars and automating like certain processes that are maybe dangerous for humans or this sort of thing with it as AI technology advances, we can use it to better our lives in complicated ways than necessarily just, oh, we don't want to hire someone to do this. That's the way like corporations and I don't know people who suck want to use AI. It's like for me, I think it's cool if we can actually apply this stuff in meaningful ways. But it's just like all technology, it's really about how you use it, right? And I think it was the same way with the some of the crypto stuff. Like, yeah, it got just stupid with the NFT stuff, but there's some positive elements to blockchain and that I think are really interesting and sort of having secure, decentralized payment networks and this stuff is really beneficial. But I was just like, we have to figure it out. The internet wasn't didn't happen overnight, right? There's a massive
No.
.com boom and bubble bursting, and it's like that's where I feel like we just got past that first bubble bursting with the Web3, all this stuff. So like in 10 years, probably we'll have some sort of useful tech from there, and I think it's probably going to be the same with AI. It'll take a while to figure it out.
I do think specifically though, and again, I think you give good examples potentially of AI, but I do think when it comes to narrative storytelling, I'm not convinced yet. And I so agree with you about NFTs and cryptocurrency that there really was this mad gold rush mentality in both forms of NFTs and crypto. That again, this bubble has recently burst, and now lessons are learned. But we'll see what happens. It's you're right. It's peaks and valleys, and we'll see how people handle it. I got a comment. Oh, Wesley, what does Wesley have to say? As an engineer, I've used AI to write an ML script. I don't know what an ML script is. I could have done it if I didn't know what to ask for. I couldn't have done it if I didn't know what to ask for. Experts know the complexities. I don't know what an ML.
Exactly. So like basically, I don't really know what he's referring to in an ML script either, but the AI was only able to write it because he was specific enough in his query, which still speaks to the necessity of a human user, right? The AI itself couldn't have generated it without the specificity.
And having that human example to go by, where there is an established piece of work to work off of in an AI sense. Thank you, Carrie. Carrie says ML is a machine learning script. So thank you. Yeah, and Wesley concurs. That's great. Look how esoteric our conversation has gotten, Curt. Beyond talking about the funny books into
dude, I like it. I love this stuff. I'm a nerd. I love this shit.
I absolutely feel the same way, man. No, this is great. And truly, everybody, if you like we said, What's the Furthest from Here is a great example to compare It's Only Teenage Wasteland from Dark Horse and what Curt's given us there. But really, this really fun, interesting science fiction conspiracy story that he's got going with Indigo Children as well. And
yeah, Indigo Children, I'd say if you like Department of Truth, you'll probably really dig this one. This again, sort of the stupid high concept way of selling it. I would say it's like mashing together like Department of Truth and maybe a bit of Radiant Black, right? So still that little bit of a superhero thing there, but it's really this mystery conspiracy thing.
I think it's great, man. No, and I really appreciate you giving the preview of the first couple of issues. It's going to come out in about a month, everybody, and we're getting close to final order cutoff. So read up more, and I hope you appreciated the conversation. Indigo.
You know what, John? I sent Sean some. I told Sean to send you some exclusive pages to show off here. Some of the craziest pages from the book. Maybe you can pull those up. I don't know if you.
Oh, if he did, maybe he did. He just sent them. So hold on one second. Let me bring up a couple of these. I'm really glad you said that.
This is just for everyone who's like watching this live. I pulled up two of the coolest pages from the first couple issues, just to show exclusively on Word Balloon.
Oh, I'm so glad you did this, man. Hang on one second. I just want to, because we'll give it the full screen treatment as I did showing the art earlier. So we'll do that. 1 second, because I've got they're still kind of downloading. This is almost like 1999 where you have to wait.
Yeah, I know. I should have mentioned it before we hopped on here, but I kind of just remembered it.
No worries, and I'm so glad you did, because again, I'm happy to show them before we wrap up, and it'll give people an idea of some of the great imagery that we're talking about here. Let's see if I can grab one of these and open it, and hopefully, let's see. Okay, I'm going to do this. Will it open? Sorry, everybody. Stand by. I appreciate your patience as I try to open these. Okay, it's all right. It's negotiating. I should have it in a second. Okay, hold on, everybody. I can now. I can bring it up on the screen in a second.
It'd be great if your computer just like blew up right now or something.
No, it wouldn't. I don't want it dead. Jesus. God damn it. Where the hell is it? Oh, wait. Okay. Window. Killing me, man. I'm sorry, everybody. Okay, here we go. All right. Here's a great example right here.
We got it. Oh, wow. This is a good one.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, this is from issue 3. This is two characters who haven't been together in a while. And as they're sort of kissing, we're seeing all their memories flooding in. And we've got about 100 panels in the background, or however many there are of all these memories of them together in their life from their childhoods. And it's all in indigo, right? Because it's like,
yes,
they're the Indigo Children. There you go. But that's a really cool one.
And then the other one.
Yeah, the other one's a similar type of thing. It's one of the character's memories flooding back to him after he's been kind of awakened from a brainwashing sequence, and we see him remembering all this stuff, and see some of the other Indigo kids there, him being born, all this. It's like your whole life flashing before your eyes, right? It's one of these cool things you can only really do in comics.
100%, man. No, and again, gorgeous art. Name check your artist once again. Both
Oh
the
yes.
drawing and the colors.
So for Indigo Kids, the artist is Alex Diodo, a great Italian artist who I've worked with for many, many years. And the colorist is D Canifi, uh, or Canef. I don't know. Maybe I mispronounced that. D, don't be angry. Great colorist, worked on a ton of stuff. We've done a lot with him. But those are the guys in those book, and then the Teenage Wasteland books, Jacoby Salcido and Mark Dale.
That's excellent, man. Really cool stuff. And I thank you for letting us know that that wait a minute before we go, some very cool art to share. And again, only in comics can you convey this kind of storytelling. And Curt
Yeah,
Pires,
exactly. That's the magic of it, right?
yeah,
If we just cared about selling dumb TV shows, we wouldn't do a page with more than 5 panels on it. Okay, there's like 30 panels on those pages. We care, you guys.
absolutely. The proof is there in the books, everybody. So again, it's only Teenage Wasteland is just wrapping up, and will wrap up, I guess, to coincide with the debut of Indigo Children, which starts at the end of March. Do you know the final cutoff date, Curt?
Yeah, so you have till March the 6th to
Okay.
pre-order the first issue of Indigo Children, and all the issues so far of It's Only Teenage Wasteland. You should be able to order or have your shop bring in for you before we announce the show, and everyone goes on eBay and tries to sell them for $50 or whatever stupid shit they're gonna do. It's like
Exactly.
uh, it's good though. I got a box of comps here. I'm gonna throw those bad boys up there. Maybe I'll send a few of them to CGC. I'll just like pay my bills for a month by just flipping some comics. I'm just kidding. I probably won't do that because it's actually a lot of work to ship the stuff. But it's really something.
I hear you, man. I know it is. It's so funny. I was telling you earlier. I was shooting a documentary earlier. I won't say the subject on air. I'll let the filmmakers do it when they're ready. But we were talking about the '90s and the speculation bubble, and it really does seem that in these COVID years and post-COVID years, we're almost back to that again, where the price of comics and first runs and key issues and first appearances are so crucial. And yeah, man, I haven't even looked at things like Sweet Tooth, and I would only imagine that original issues are just through the roof, and likely that will be the case for Teenage Wasteland and Youth as well once things are up and running. So it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy. Look, I understand the appeal of variant art. It's cool, right? If you love artists, if you love comic books, it's really a visual medium, so it's fun to
Yeah,
be able to do the variant covers and stuff, but it absolutely kind of gets out of hand sometimes.
so agree. Absolutely. See, Piers, we're different generations, but we think alike. This is great. Man, seriously, I'm so glad Sean Edgar tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, Curt Pierce has some new stuff." And I'm like, "That's great. We had a great conversation last time when we talked about youth, and I'm happy to again pump the product for Indigo Children and It's Only Teenage Wasteland." So everyone jump on board as
Pump it out, buddy. Pump it out. We need that. We're going after that number one diamond spot, which we'll never get, but
no, but
we're gonna try.
But the good news is, truly, man, as someone that's been observing the market for even more years that I've been doing Word Balloon, it's going to be 18 years in May. But, the 20 plus years that I've been really watching things, the good news is there's plenty of room on the shelf for Superman, Batman, and great independent ideas as well. And I really believe that the audience, as we all mature, appreciates new ideas and fresh concepts. And Curt Pierce is certainly giving us that with his books. So, hey, man, seriously, continued success. Good luck. We'll all be watching for the announcements for TV coming up for Teenage Wasteland, and yeah, and also whenever we can expect youth. I think it's great, and I'm so glad you're doing what you're doing. Keep it up, and when there's something new, you're always welcome back.
I appreciate it, John. Thank you for having me and for the very kind words.
Thanks everybody for watching and listening. Friday night, it's going to be an All Yeah podcast. My dear buddies, Art Baltazar and Franco, the Tiny Titans guys, our good cosplay friend, Skokie Spidey, who cuts a great Peter Parker when he's in costume, and our buddy Scoot McMahon as well. We're all gonna that's our fuck around show, Curt, where we all just kind of, it's essentially like the cast of Teenage Wasteland, just without the trappings of a high school party, but pretty much the same kind of dick and fart jokes that you can expect.
There you go. Dick and fart jokes never get old,
Absolutely not. Everybody, until tomorrow night, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.